Hello and welcome to this episode of Mission Education.
Train Up Your Child. I'm Teresa Murdoch.
And I'm Adam Forster. We have a great show for you guys today. So Teresa, what are we going to be talking about?
We'd like to inform the community on the different educational options in Culpeper.
Which really is the purpose of the show, right? Is to let you know that you do have options, that the public education system is not your only choice. So Teresa, what are we going to start off with today?
Well, we'll obviously spotlight King's Light Christian Academy.
Yeah. Which is the one we both know best. Yeah.
The one I founded and the one that you work at. So what King's Light Christian Academy, well, I'll just get the background. Born out of just the Lord's promptings that we needed something for Christian education for our teens in the area that was affordable, a bit more than a one-day-a-week co-op. So, just as the Lord prompted me in this journey, it was Him opening doors to find about the hybrid model, which is what King's Light Christian Academy is. So we meet 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Our current campus is at Jeffersonton Baptist up in Jeffersonton, Virginia, still Culpeper County. And the premise of why a hybrid is still making sure that parents are connected with their kids in their educational process.
Very much so. It's just a wonderful partnership. And we can't do our job as teaching and educating them without the involvement of the parents. So we don't try and push them away and say there's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
We're like, please be part of this. Please participate and be aware of what is going on in the classroom and what your children are learning.
And the content matter is not what the parents are delivering.
No.
So obviously, we have teachers in place that they're delivering the content matter and reviewing that with the kids. The hybrid model concept is that the students are home 2 days a week, on campus 3 days a week. The 2 days a week, the parents are making sure that the youth continue to learn about time management, responsibility, prioritization, continuing to help them work on their character development. Tying in a parent is in the oversight to help train up their child to be an independent adult.
Right, yeah. So it's either preparing them for college, where they get to choose whether they go to school class or not, but they have to get the work done, or life in general, right? So it really is sort of like the training wheels. You're going from a little kiddie bike to an adult bike, but with some training wheels to help them learn balance and get momentum.
In a hybrid model, when you have the elementary years, which if the Lord opens those doors for us eventually, that would be amazing. But the parents are more involved in the elementary years, and rightly so. So they're doing more subject matter delivery in the elementary years in a hybrid model. But as we get into high school, we're training up our youth to take more ownership.
And it's funny, our culture has regressed from putting responsibility on youth, and they've become more and more responsible, and they are maturing emotionally much later in life, into their 20s and 30s.
Well, and that's the psychology of it. People are like, well, their brain's not fully developed until they're 25. I'm like, I'm fairly certain that is culturally induced. Because you think about even 50, 60 years ago, the maturity level of a teen versus now.
Oh, hugely different.
We can have, that's a whole other thing we can chat about, but this is why we also spotted programs like the 4-H program.
Yes.
We think that that's a wonderful program because again, it gives youth ownership. Ownership of an animal that they have to figure out how to control. And they can't walk in fear. There's so many aspects of the 4-H program that help raise up a child into maturity.
Right.
Because it forces them to have to take certain lead.
And, a big part of the philosophy at KCLA is hands-on approach, when it's not all academic. We want to get them out into the field. We want them to have a tactile experience to reinforce the educational part, the intellectual part. So 4-H is wonderful.
Right, and again, we're always assessing at King's Light, what's our curriculum, why are we doing what we're doing? We actually transitioned into Bob Jones' curriculum, so just FYI parents, this is another thing to know, is what kind of curriculum are they using? Why did they choose that curriculum? We ended up in Bob Jones because it was a vetted Christian curriculum. Would you say Bob Jones is perfect?
No.
It has its flaws.
Yeah.
But again, parents, you choose to put your children where it aligns with your values, and how you hope to raise up your child. Now, we have a parent, and I'll share this too, who has they have 3 children, each in a different school. And that's because each educational format that their child is in serves each child differently. And so this is another thing. It's like, T, why would you ever spotlight all the educational options in Culpeper? That's competition for you. Because
we're the body of Christ, right? This is a team sport. It's not.
Because Kings Light isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a part of it is like parents, when you do the research about what educational options there are in our county, then you can go, okay, I know my child. And then you go interview, do a walkthrough, talk to the parents of the families that go there, talk to administration, and say, is this a good fit? Like, we do an interview, and I tell this to my kids too, and I hope this makes sense. It's like when you go on an interview, they're not just seeing if you're a good fit. You're seeing if they're a good fit.
Absolutely,
You know, parents, if you're going to pay any type of financial investment into an educational organization, that's going to have oversight over a kid, you want to make sure it's a good fit for that child.
Absolutely.
This is the point of this show. What could possibly, outside public sector, be a good fit for my child? Because public sector is one size fits all. You get what you get. Right?
And they kind of like to hide everything behind the curtain, so that you don't really know what you're getting.
Well, there's truth to that. Like, what do you really know you're getting? That's another question. And if you want to go back to our accreditation show, please review that one.
Yeah.
So anyways, but we are God honoring. Like, God is the focus at KLCA. We hope to train up the youth to understand who He is, who their Savior is. Do we assume every child that walks through that door is saved?
No.
No, we do not.
But at the same time, we don't treat them any differently from any other child. We hope that through being in the environment of Christians, learning about God, that they will come to their own revelation of Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and not that it's being fed to them, and that they have to repeat what we say, like we're in some kind of, we're not a cult,
Yes. And this is the thing of indoctrination versus teaching them to be wise and discern is, God is the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is that. And so we uphold that truth, but we tell them you get to choose.
Because that's really what it is in the end.
It really is the choice.
I mean, you can't make a choice for someone else. And I love the saying, God doesn't have grandchildren, right? He's only got children. And so your child has to be given the best possible, informed consent, really. This is what God is all about. This is how God manifests His love. This is why He chose you, but you still need to choose Him. And can I just say one thing really quickly? I had a great conversation with one of our students the other day about religion and Christianity in public schools. Now, I come from a heathen background. I didn't accept Jesus until I was 28 years old. And I was very libertarian, and I thought, no, school should just be an academic place, and it shouldn't have any religious influence whatsoever. But if you look at America and you look what happened when we took Jesus out of schools, God, but specifically Jesus, because they still like Islam and Buddhism stuff, America went downhill very fast. You take Jesus out of relationship, out of you, your life will become hollow and it will become devoid of real life. So we need to have Christ in every aspect of our lives, and especially education.
So again, just to spotlight us a little bit, we do have a website, kingslight.org, and we have a Facebook page, Kings Light Christian Academy, and we also have a phone, 540-547-1675. Again, I will put all these things in the comment section on our Facebook page for Mission Education, Train Up Your Child. So go to the
Facebook page.
Go to the post, look in the comments. Everything that we talk about today, I'm going to put the links in. Another one is Morning Star Academy. Oh, forgive me. And we're a high school, 9th through 12th.
Right.
Just so you know that. Now, if the Lord allows us to grow, and that's His desire, we'll definitely follow that lead. Morning Star Academy is a micro school also started by Katie DeMello and Donette Williams. They're also God-honoring Christian educational format, grades K through 8, part-time and full-time options. and they are at Alum Springs Baptist. Now, this is their mission statement, and I asked Katie, what specifically she'd like me to share, and this is what she asked me to put out, is that Morning Star Academy seeks to glorify God by assisting families and guiding all children to transform into their full potential, both spiritually and academically. The staff at Morning Star believe in creating an atmosphere based on compassion, mercy, and forgiveness, reconciliation. We strive to cultivate habits of discipline clothed in truth and love, and providing instruction that considers the whole child, resulting in growth that's everlasting. They have a website, morningstaracademy.net, and they also have their Facebook page, Morningstar Academy. And I've actually visited with Katie when she had like her open house, and the families are really pleased.
Yes.
Katie and Dawnette are doing an excellent job. Now we're going to a more formal format of Christian schools, Culpeper Christian School. Of course, they've been around for years in Culpeper, and that's a K through 8th God-honoring environment located at 810 Old Rixeyville Road, Culpeper, Virginia. Website, culpeperchristianschool.com, and phone 540-825-4208. And I know that Culpeper Christian has gone through, a bit of turmoil over the last few years. And I ask, how are things going there? Because one, I glean from other organizations, say what works, what doesn't work. They have a new principal, and from my understanding, staff and families are very happy.
Right. And please don't rely on the opinions of other people, which can translate into gossip.
It sure can.
Go find out for yourself.
Yep.
Ask hard questions.
Yep.
And see what's going on. Talk to teachers, talk to current parents, see if they're happy. But don't rely on rumors to inform a decision.
And this is something to consider as well. Depending on parent standards, one thing may work for a family because their standards match, and one thing may not work for a family because their standards do not match. So it might even be just a standards issue, and so really do your research, families, and understand, does this jive with what we want our child to be a part of? Just because it didn't work for one family. Like, we've had families head out of KLCA, but we wish them well. We want the best for them. Now, it'll break my heart when they leave and don't go to a God-honoring community. That's hard. But if they put their child in a different God-honoring community that works for that for their child, we're happy for that. Epiphany Catholic School, again, is a K through 8th in town. They've been around for a good long while as well. God-honoring environment, and they're located at 1211 East Grandview Avenue in Culpeper. They have their website, epiphanycatholicschool.org. Their phone, 540-825-9017. One of our students went to Epiphany, and she really enjoyed her time there. So, I'm great, and she loves the Lord, and she's dedicated to Jesus as her Lord and Savior. So, again, we're seeing fruit come from that. One of a newer co-op, I know they came around just in a few years, is Mountain Run Forest School.
And that's I love that concept. I really do.
When we talk about let the children play, this format nails it. To really, if you really want to do some sweet research on why creativity and art and things along that nature and outside play is so important in the development of our children, and also critical thinking is tethered to that, this is an excellent format. So it is for the younger age group. Forgive me, I can't remember. I didn't tag that on here, but
I think it goes up to 12 years old.
It might be 12, but don't quote me. Go to the website, mountainrunforestschool.com.
Right.
The focus is outdoor interactive learning. Okay, and that is great if you have high energy little boys.
They have found that the more time children spend outside, the more issues like ADHD go away.
Certainly.
So it is a wonderful thing.
I just saw a little thing of it's silly to relate this, but it kind of makes sense in the parallel of this doggy daycare. They have a bus and they pick up the dogs in the city, and the dogs are wild as they pick them up in the bus, and then they run, they play them, and then the dogs are sitting in the bus on the way home super chill. That's kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's true of us too. So many times it's I'm going off on a tangent, but we're going to have a moment here. We throw drugs at things where sometimes maybe we just need to take a hike.
I couldn't agree more.
I can't sleep. Well, what are you doing to expel your energy?
What do they say now? It's they say gut health and mental health are completely I mean, they are so interrelated. And I used to have a husky mix dog, and he was untrainable fresh out of the gate. I actually had to take him out on a run, throw a stick for him for about an hour, and it wore out that energy. Then he was so trainable. But it took, exercise first, and then he was able to be calm and teachable. And I think that's true with everybody.
Yes, we've been there as adults where our brain is like,
yeah.
There has to be something to bring us down. Find that. Don't just rely on drugs to do that. I tell our kids all the time, like I put in, he's a commentary, David Guzik, and I put in his commentary and I just kind of focus on, his word, how he's teaching us through the word, and that helps my brain settle.
Yeah.
So find that thing that helps your brain settle. Activity is really a good part of that, especially for children. When with KLCA, go out, take a walk.
I was just, thinking back to COVID when families would go out and walk together. Families who exercise. And from my childhood, my mother would make us go out for a walk on a Sunday afternoon. And I loved it because there was so much talking, and my grandfather would come out.
There's so many health benefits, mental benefits to exercise, and especially for our kids that are little ping pongs anyways naturally.
And not in a gym, get outside.
Get outside.
Yes.
And it was funny because we have our new facility at Jefferson Baptist. There's a pond like just down over the hill, and so we had lunch, and it was a bit of an extended lunch, and I was like, guess what, guys, we're gonna go check out the pond. And like, it's so hot, Missy. I'm like, get outside. Walking down to the pond, and I was like, we'll bring fishing poles.
Right.
We're going to find out if there's fish in here. So,
And kids can be resistant at first, right?
Sure.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to sweat. Well, you'll get over it. Come on, we're going for a walk. And then they were completely fine.
And then they don't want to come back in.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, you'd actually let us go fishing? Well, yeah, if we have time at a long lunch, of course I will. All right, so another one is Homeschool Hollow Co-op. Now, I have not heard of this one, so I'm wondering if this is fairly new. And it's being hosted at Journey Church, which they just got their new location.
Which is awesome.
At the Hazel River.
The old Hazel River Assemblies of God.
Assembly of God.
Yeah.
So again, they're located at Hazel River Church Road, Culpeper, Virginia. Their meetings are Tuesday, 9 a.m. to noon, ages 3 to 12. Victoria is the contact, and again, victoria.a.settle@gmail.com, or text 540-423-8410. Now, because this is I've not heard of this co-op before, I can't really speak to, exactly what they do, the curriculum or anything of that sort. But again, parents, regardless of what we have to say, go do your research.
Absolutely. Have
a meeting.
Try and get there during business hours so you can see how
it goes. See what the interaction is going on inside the school or inside the co-op. Champions for Christ is another co-op that's been around for a good long while. They meet Wednesdays, 9 a.m. to 4:05 p.m. in Culpeper. Again, God honoring, obviously, Champions for Christ. My own children attended Champion for Christ when they were little. It was wonderful. And again, like, this is when we talk about format, if you only meet one day a week, or what kind of model works best for your youth to kind of walk alongside you and educating them. Sometimes 1 day a week works, sometimes 2 days a week, sometimes 3, sometimes 5, find a model and the time investment that works best. And again, Lori Payne is one of the individuals in charge, and it's 14 to senior in high school. Grace Co-op is another one. This one is at Mount Lebanon Baptist Church. It's a Christ-centered co-op, K through 12. So I called Sharon, because Sharon is the one that's head of it, and I said, okay, Sharon, we're going to talk about Grace, so what would you like me to share? So this is, again, where we're at. Parents must agree to sign our statement of faith and be a part of the Grace, to be a part of the Grace Co-op. We're 100% parent-led, so parents are very involved, obviously. We do not pay instructors to teach classes. There's no fee to join Grace, since we are a mission of Mount Lebanon Church, but we do ask for a $25 supply fee per family. We do planning sessions in the fall, spring co-ops to decide classes. Parents bring their ideas and their talents. Let's see what else. Parents instruct help with 2 classes. Every parent has a free block where we offer fellowship table encourage time with homeschooling mom and dad.
It's a great way for community building too. I do like that.
Yeah. Each grade level will have 3 classes. Each grade level will have play PE. Other 2 classes can be about anything, that a parent desires, science, experience, Lego building, art. So it's more of an enrichment co-op.
Yeah.
So this is the other side to consider. Is co-op, private school, our hybrid is a private school because we handle all the documentation.
Right.
We're handing out the transcript, we're documenting attendance, all of these things. So we fall under we operate, as the government standard of a private school.
Right.
But parents are still tethered in the essence of raising up character, integrity, time management with our children. In this type of co-op, parents are actually teaching. So you have to know those kind of requirements. In classical conversations, which is coming up next, classical conversations is another one that it is an educational format that is excellent, and it builds on knowledge base from kindergarten all the way through up through 12th, 1 day a week meeting, but parents are teaching. You have to be a part of this. You're an integral part of that community. So Grace and Classical run that way. Again, with the one that's at the Journey Church, I don't know that.
Okay.
But parents, if you really want to be at that level involved, and that's another decision that you have to make, or if it's required, it's a question. What's required of me as a parent? And Classical Conversations builds on the education from K through 12. We really loved it. I had the kids in there early on. But again, I was still looking for something that was more than a 1 day a week model. And the way that Classical Conversation runs, they have their tiers called Foundations, Essentials, Challenge A, Challenge B, Challenge 1, Challenge 2, and Challenge 3, and Challenge 4. So it's not like typical grades. And our experience with it is you don't even have a normal grading scale. The parents are doing the grading of the work. So when I tell you, parents, no matter what educational system you decide to partner with, you should be the standard. Classical Conversations really holds to this. They're saying you're the one that's going to deem that your child's work is,
on par or meeting a certain standard.
Subpar, yeah, correct. So anyways, it really is an excellent educational opportunity there. They have classicalconversations.com as their website, and the contact person for Culpeper South was forgive me, I'm hoping I'm saying her name right, Roylene Schaefer, and you can go to the website and her contact is there. So again, there's a lot of opportunity, and I'm not even saying I've named them all. This is just what the ones that I'm aware of.
Right.
Now, if you decide to go outside Culpeper, Rappahannock's got a great homeschooling group up there. Bealton has another one. Madison has more. So sometimes, even if our community is it's just not right. Well, okay, maybe you'll have to drive a little bit, to find one that fits your family.
Right. Now, there are other private schools as well, especially out in the area, which aren't Christ-centered, or they may be like the high school I went to, which had a Christian name, and we had to go to chapel once every quarter, I think it was. There was no real emphasis on Jesus in any of those schools. And you have to make that decision. Do you want to have a school which is built around Jesus as the core, or do you want to just have a regular but a good education, but it's deficient in probably, I believe, the most important part of life, which is your relationship with God. Now, your kids will do well, and they should be well educated. If they go to a regular private school. But you do have to what makes a life really worth living? What do you want them just to have a good job and raise a family, which is all good, or do you want them to have a life that is filled with the presence of God in every aspect, which is what we desire to impart? So yes, there are private schools and there are private schools.
And that requires, again, conversation and research.
Yes.
Just as with accreditation, just because it says God honoring, well, I mean, we're human, we're pretty fallible.
Very,
you know? So, and just like with accreditation, a lot of places don't even uphold the standard they tout they do. That's not untrue for Christ-centered organizations as well. How many churches do a disservice because they're not upholding God's word, right? Again, that's not untrue of private sector schools either. That's why you have to do the research. That's why you have to have the conversations. Why you have to visit. Know their policies. Get a hold of the handbook. Again, I know some handbooks are long. Ours is 75 pages long.
For a reason.
For a reason.
It's not just fluff.
But it's not, because, you know, you come up against a situation and you're like, wow, we really didn't have anything written on how we're going to deal with that. This year we just derived a pregnancy policy because we're dealing with teens. That's a fact of life that they could come down the pike.
Right.
You know, and I did the research on, you know, what statistically happens when students are expelled in private sector, you know, Christian communities, if the girl gets pregnant. What's the fallout of that? And it's far more detrimental to that young woman and to the child to expel her, you know, and again, create a culture of like, oh, you dirty sinner, get out.
Right.
For the other kids, versus coming around her, loving her, and again, her having that repentant heart and understanding the consequences of what she's done. But there's more opportunity to save the child's life, because if you expel, there's a more likelihood of abortion.
Right. And then the other girl, I mean, the poor mother, it's not just one dead and then one wounded. And she's not just wounded physically, but emotionally too. It's basically, when you excommunicate someone from the community that they're in, you start putting them on a really bad track for life. And it's not what Jesus would ever want for us, right?
Well, I mean, there's biblical reference to removing a believer out of the body.
For very,
Speak to that, Adam.
Yeah, right?
Please.
I mean, Paul was like, look, there's a guy who's living in sin purposely, knowingly, right? It's not just a one-time accident, right? And it's like you've got to protect the body there. But then in a teenager gets pregnant, right? If she's leading a promiscuous lifestyle, it's up to us to actually see that happening, right? To work with her, talk to her. Where's her value? Is it by being available to every guy who comes along? Because so we really need to catch that before it happens.
So the question is, like, when we, like, for Kings Light Christian Academy, we say our discipline is about discipleship.
Yes.
You know, and so if we find out a student is operating in a manner contrary to God, contrary to the covenant that they signed, because we have a covenant that they sign, we have a conversation.
Yes.
We talk to them. You know, this is something you need to know about your school. Are they going to be like, well, check on you, you're out because you screwed up this way? Never had an honest conversation with them. And typically that's more about fear in the organization. What's the fallout of this?
How do we look to other people?
How do we look? I have literally had that said to me, and I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
I care about that child and the fact that she was going to walk another life into this world, hopefully by God's grace. And like, how are we going to love her through that? And amidst acknowledging the brokenness that occurred, obviously.
Absolutely.
You know, but not strip her of her value.
When that redemption is at every turn, right? And so we don't want to enable them to continue in a promiscuous lifestyle. We want to change lives, transform lives. And if a blessing comes along, a child is a blessing. You know, it's not a curse.
Exactly.
And it'll be a learning opportunity for the whole school.
For the whole school. And it's about like how we're dealing with it. You know, so much of the damaging side of the Christian culture is shaming instead of like having honest conversation to help someone out of a sin behavior. And again, it's more about, how does this make me look?
Yeah.
You know, instead of really caring for the soul.
Yeah. Good thing Jesus wasn't concerned what other people thought of him. You know.
Tell me about it. I mean, truth for me, you know, I've definitely made some mistakes in my youth. And I will tell you, because I'm a crier, I'll try not to cry on TV, but like, it's the moment when someone says that was in error. It could have had really damaging repercussions, but I love you, let's make a different decision. That walked me out of that instead of stripping me of my value.
Because that's so easy to do.
It's so easy to do. And that's about control and fear when you do that. So, you know, again, we have to really guard our words and say, are we seeing this individual as an image of God, you know, image bearer of God? And how are we going to help walk them out? Now, again, some people get to choose. You know, they want to be stuck in their mentality. I think that's where that scripture comes into play. Like, I am unwilling to shift.
Unrepentant.
Yeah. And, you know, then, okay, well, now you're damaging. Like, we have an expulsion policy, you know, so so many times. We have conversation, BIFs, how many did you achieve? Where are you at? Minor infractions versus major infractions, okay? They sign the covenant, that helps hold them accountable.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a conversation. Now, if you do something truly dangerous and it puts our other children at risk, well, there's going to be more of an immediate response.
Absolutely.
You
Right?
know, but in right context.
Yes, it has to be appropriate. So it's wonderful. We're coming to the end of the show. One last thing that we do need to talk about, and it's finance, right? Money is often what people think is the number one reason why they can't afford to send their child to school, other than public schools, because they can't afford it, whether it's the time or whether it's the actual finances. And so, you know, the best way to see where you put value is where you put your time and your treasure, right? And so if your child isn't taking top priority after being fed, clothed, and housed, you know, then you have to look what's happening to them in public school. Is that healthy for them? Are they prospering or are they struggling? And then private school or homeschooling can be a whole lot more affordable than you think. And I also wish that churches would start to sponsor their children in the congregation, see the value of Christian education, and help parents that are struggling to get them there. Because if we don't invest in our future, then we have no future.
This, you know, and forgive me, churches, I'm going to charge you a little bit. If you're going to spend thousands of dollars on a mission field across the ocean,
and neglect what's right,
and neglect the kids right in front of you under your care in your church, please see them as the foundational mission field in our community. You know, we want to see the body of Christ grow in our community. We have got to reach our children. We have really got to reach our families. So sometimes in like the church settings, like, oh, we don't want to step on toes. I'm telling you, I got a pastor that's okay with stepping on toes, and I love it. It's so convicting. Like sometimes I come out of church, I'm like, holy smacks, I just got you know, it was good. You know, and so parents, when we're talking about, is this affordable? Well, maybe the Starbucks coffee every week, maybe eating out every week can go to the side, you know, so that you can afford to bring them into a public or a private educational, you know.
I mean, you're going to spend $3,000 to $4,000 on a summer vacation.
Yeah.
But you could actually send one child to public school for a little bit more than that, or private school. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So what are the priorities? Because you know, vacations are nice, but after a year or two, that memory is really faded.
Well, what are we training our children up in saying that's important to us?
Yeah.
You know, I'm teaching finance this year with our senior, and we're having these conversations, you know, and I'll just explain this real quick. I drew on our board, and it was a 1950s home versus a 2025 home. And I was like, Dan, do you know the difference in square footage of these two homes? Now let's talk about what it takes to financially keep a 1,000 square foot home, 1,200 square foot home running, and the cost to purchase versus a 3,500 to 5,000 square foot. They represent priority. In the 1950s, the priority was far different in the nuclear family versus the priorities of today.
Yeah.
You know, I talked about, like, my girlfriend had to room with her sister, but they have a tight bond. Sure, they fought, but they learn to love each other. So there's beauty in having your kids share a room. Not every child needs to have their own bedroom. The other side of that is, like, you know, it was great to see when you walk through youth and they're like have an aha moment. He's like, yeah, like you never see your kids or your parents when the home's big, and it's true.
Yeah.
And I joked around because our house is teeny. You know, we have a small little home, but we did finish the basement, and I'll find my kids. I'm like, where are you? Hunt them down. You know, because you know, our culture has created the big and fancy, and we've disconnected
completely
from our family.
I'll never forget reading this story back in the 2008-2009 financial crash when many homes were foreclosed on. And this one family, like many, actually moved into a campground, and they lived in a tent, no personal space.
Yeah.
And they said it was some of the best years of their lives, and they got to know their neighbors, and they took care of an elderly woman who was just across the pathway. What we fear is not something we should...
Well, it's because we have to give up self.
Right? Comfort. Comfort is our number one.
I want what I want in my space, and don't you get in my space.
I got to have the newest, latest Mac Daddy phone, you know, children with $1,000 phones, which nothing good comes from.
Yeah, and I just had a little feedback. They were like, why, Miss T, can't we, because I do take the phones, why can't we have it at lunch? I'm like, nope.
No.
You all have to talk. You have to interact. Like, I'm sorry, we're not doing that this year. You know, and we, like I said, we've already seen, you know, the benefit of removing the laptops and going back to textbooks. And we're trying to find the balance of obviously the tech and the tactile. But we are seeing a benefit of removing electronics.
And they have said they prefer the hard book textbooks, and they all have to handwrite everything, and science has proven handwriting is far better for memory retention. Yep.
So again, you know, we parents, there's sometimes you can be fearful and like, I just can't, but you have to be willing to say, what am I willing to sacrifice for the long-term benefit of my child? The easy route is not, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, not the right answer.
It has not been healthy for America. I've heard a great quote that America was built on delayed gratification.
Yes.
And we have reversed that now. So it's all about instant gratification. And our culture is suffering because of that. It has not been a good thing for our nation.
Our most, would you say, what generation would you say had the most grit?
Oh, the greatest generation. I mean, it's in their name.
Why?
Well, first they went through the Great Depression, which prepared them for World War II, which is all about sacrifice, giving up, pulling together as a team. My mother grew up during the Blitz in London, actually Newcastle up north, where it was being bombed. She was born in an air raid. Half the hospital was blown up. And she used to play in the bombed out buildings. It was exciting. They learned to go without. And it gave them resilience, which is really lacking in our culture now. So we need to understand that we can do without these little creature comforts. That, you know, a cup of Starbucks coffee is nice if you like Starbucks and all that, but 10 minutes later it's gone, you know. But investing that money, we're called to invest into the kingdom of heaven, right? So figure out how you can invest first at home, in the church, locally, and then we can start thinking globally. But we need to take care of what's in front of us first.
I often wonder how many families actually even operate on a true budget. Because when you, and this is something we're also teaching in finance, is like when you put something down on paper and you're held accountable to it, you start to see your priorities. And so I had my sweet student do a pie chart. We started with 24 hours in the day, and where were his priorities, what he did in a 24-hour day. And it was funny because he actually did what he thought he should do in a 24-hour day versus what he really does. And I docked him for it. I'm like, I wanted facts, you know, because what I'm trying to show you is your priorities. You know, family. So, and this is convicting for the believers. This is not for non-believers. I'm just going to just say this straight. As believers, there's an accountability to our time, talent, and treasure. So, my question and challenge to the community of believers that we're speaking to is, if you were to do a budget, what would your priorities?
Isn't it funny, right? You have the priorities you think you have, and then you start to see where it is, and if you have to categorize them, right? So what are you spending on frivolous things? What are important things?
Needs versus wants.
Exactly.
And then where are you glorifying God in the midst of that?
Yeah. What do you really trust God with your finances? He's an awesome God. Yeah.
I'm telling you, He has provided 110% for KLCA. That is a but God.
Truly.
And we walk in just complete trust, you know. So as long as He allows our doors to stay open, we're like, all right, Dad, we're walking through those doors. My question, families of believers, like, can you do that knowing that you're putting your children in the best environment for them to prepare them for eternity?
Yeah. Well, I think this is all we have time for today. I really hope you've enjoyed this edition of Mission of Education. If you have questions and they're not answered on the Facebook page, please don't hesitate to contact us.
So have an email for Mission of Education.
We do, yes.
So that is on the Mission of Education Facebook page in the About section. So one, I'm happy. Contacting me through KLCA, that's totally fine. But we do have a specific Mission of Education email that you can obviously reach out to me on there as well. And I promote KLCA because I want families to know that we're here. But I also want you to know that regardless of your child coming to KLCA, I want them in a God-honoring environment. So I will work with you. I will connect you to the best of my abilities with other believing educational formats in our community.
That's wonderful. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. Until next time, God bless.
God bless. Thank you for coming.